Welcome. I'm Sue Landay from Trainer's Warehouse. This is Show and Share, and today I am with John Riordan, who is going to introduce a new tool to us called the Power of Perception. And John, I am thrilled to have you here. Thank you. John and I met at ATD this year, right? In May in DC. And John said, I have this new tool and look at all the stuff you guys have. Maybe we should talk. And so we did talk, and he shared the tool, and we fell in love with it. So we're sharing it with all of you too. So I love doing this. Like, yes, we're all excited to see. I'm going to have you go back on mute, but for a moment, if you guys can all come off mute, I'm going to count to three and we're going to say a big welcome to John. Okay, are we ready?
Wait.
Hold on. I'm going to count to three. I'm going to wait till I see enough of a critical mass of people with. Okay, ready? Three, two, one. Hi, John.
Hi,
Welcome, John.
John.
Welcome,
Welcome.
John.
Give me a break.
Welcome.
Okay.
All right. With that, I'm handing it over to you. So if we can all go back on mute and give John the floor a little bit, we'd love to hear about the power of perception.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sue. I appreciate it. I want to welcome and acknowledge my colleague, Dr. Leangela Ingram, who's on the call as well. Last week, time we were on, Nora suggested inviting a client or colleague who's used this tool with client groups and teams. And so I immediately thought of Leangela because she's used this a number of times and she's got some great input on that. So Leangela, please chime in at any point with your input on this, speaking of different perspectives and experiences. So this topic, I have been in training and development, working with teams, strategic planning and leadership development for 25 years in the professional realm, and prior to that with students in Uganda and East Africa. Throughout the years, this point was so persistent in my mind that underneath almost any topic you can discuss is this concept that we see the world differently depending on who we are. So there's a great quote, we do not see the world as it is, we see it as we are. And it is so fundamental, it underlies almost anything. Am I an effective leader? I think so. Lisa has a different opinion, and I can't believe that she thinks differently than me, right?
Could she?
Pam loves cats. We all love cats, don't we? How could anyone love a dog more than a cat, right? I mean, you name the topic, customer service. I think I'm a great waiter, right? Ayako doesn't think so, and she's complaining to my manager. How dare she? Right? We she's shaking her head. We have different perceptions of the same exact experience, data, whatever it might be. Rachel and I walk out of the meeting and I go, wow, that was great. Gosh, what a great meeting. We really accomplished a lot. She's like, that was a terrible meeting. Were we in the same room? How could you possibly think that was effective? We have different experiences, different perceptions of the same world around us, of others, of ourselves, etc.
And you have a tool to help us with this.
It crystallized when I found a set of colored lenses in a toy store. And you talk about a light bulb moment. And then fast forward, my assistant business manager, Jory, helped us find a manufacturer in China. I'm proud to say we have these manufactured and different colored lenses. And thus shaped a set of activities that are in this workbook. We're going to screen share, but I want to give you a chance to kind of experience this. So you don't have the equipment in hand, but we're going to do a couple activities and I'm going to ask some volunteers or voluntold if you'd be willing to participate and be the voice of the experience, and the rest of you are going to get to observe. You'll pretty readily be able to imagine what this is like and how this then plays out in your teams or your group of clients, your cohort, whoever you're working with. So I'm going to use the screen. I'm going to ask Pam if you would be willing to volunteer, and Benita and Lisa. If the three of you would be willing to volunteer, yeah? Okay, great. So everybody else can just observe and you can play along, but Pam, keep your eyes open, and Benita and Lisa, I'm going to ask the two of you to close your eyes until I tell you otherwise, okay? So, Benita, Lisa, close your eyes. Pam, what I want you to
I'm gonna
do,
do you set up your screen share first?
nope, I'm going to
Oh,
do
no,
that.
no, no. Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So,
I'm with you.
Pam, no problem. So Pam, close your eyes for 1 second. Everybody else with your eyes open, take a piece of paper. Don't say anything. Take a piece of paper, do the math, be ready to explain your math. Pam, open your eyes, do the math, write down your answer on a piece of paper, be ready to explain yourself. Give me a thumbs up when you have your answer. Okay, Pam, close your eyes. All right, Benita, open your eyes. I want you to do the math. Write it on a piece of paper. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready. Okay, great. Benita, close your eyes. Lisa, hang on 1 second. Oop. Okay, Lisa, open your eyes. Do the math. Okay, thumbs up when you're ready. Okay, great. Okay, Pam and Benita, you can open your eyes. Lisa, you can open your eyes. So, Pam, give us your, not just your answer, but it's important for us to understand how you got to your answer. So give us the math. How'd you do the math and what's your answer?
Well, I didn't know what math I should do, so I guessed and I added up the numbers I saw.
Yep, great. And explain how you added them and what you get.
Oh, so I added, there were four numbers on the screen, and so I came up with the sum total of 21.
21, and you did it pretty quickly too. So you're fast, you're efficient, you obviously know how to do your basic math, so I think you're very competent. I think we might consider hiring you onto the team. Benita, what do you think? Benita, explain your process. Added the numbers, what'd you get?
I saw 8 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4. I saw 8 numbers. I thought that the seven and yeah, I got 30
Hmm.
because I thought the numbers were already added for me, and that numbers in yellow were kind of like the answer. So that's where I got 30.
Okay, all right, interesting. Okay, the yellow numbers were maybe, did you count the yellow numbers, Pam, or not?
I don't remember. I just remember counting four numbers.
Hmm.
Oh,
Okay, I don't
one,
know how we
two,
got four numbers
four,
and eight
five,
numbers, but
six.
so there's some problem
Or
here. So Lisa, you probably have the right answer. Let's hear what Lisa has.
So I saw it's interesting. I saw numbers that were really visible, and then when I looked deeper, I saw other numbers.
Hmm.
And so I have a total of 45 because I was adding all the separate numbers, and I had 25 until I saw two tens, and I grabbed those at the end.
Huh. So Pam, what did you do with the two tens?
Well, what two tens? I didn't have any tens.
Well,
I
I mean,
single digit numbers.
I mean, just so you know, I didn't change the flip chart, right? I mean, Sue can attest, everybody else can attest. I didn't change the flip chart. So I don't understand, Pam. Did you not add the tens into the equation?
I did not. I chose not to add the tens. There were no
Because
tens. There were
there
no
were no
And
tens.
so it goes. And so it goes.
And so it goes. Now, let me ask you a question. Who's right?
I am.
Everybody's
You,
right.
right? It depends on a couple things. Depends on the stakes in the situation. If the stakes are high and I'm applying for a job or my career is on the line and
Oof.
I know that the answer was, Pam, what was the answer?
21.
Sorry,
21.
21. Well, I'm going to stand by my answer. Look, I know what I'm doing. I'm competent. You should hire me or you should give me a raise or, whatever. Like I'm here to demonstrate my competence. The answer is 21. On the other hand, if the stakes are low and Benita's my boss, and Benita said that the answer is,
30.
you know, Benita, now that I think about it, I think you're right. I'm going with 30. I don't know how she got 30, but she's my boss. So whatever she says,
Wow.
right? Whatever Benita says. Welcome to how the world turns. We see different things. We add it up differently. We do the process differently. The instructions were not super clear, right? Have you ever seen that situation? Do we go off out of the meeting, do completely different things? Because I heard one set of instructions and not someone else interpreted it totally differently. And we come up with different answers. And then we continue down the path and we don't even realize that we're working off of a different set of perceptions, a different set of assumptions, a different set of conclusions. If you've heard of the ladder of inference, we take action in an instant based on what we perceive, right? And how we do the math, so to speak, right? Who's the best candidate? Well, the best candidate is the one who saw what I saw. Because here's the trick. And this is in the workbook. If you look at this look at that flip chart through the blue or the yellow, you can see, Pam,
Oh, there's some tens in there now.
there's some tens, and there's a little five hiding right over there.
Oh, wow. I didn't even see that.
Oh
Right?
yeah, yeah.
The two tens and the five hidden away that are perfectly obvious through the blue lens. Well, now everybody's wondering, what on earth did Pam see? Well, guess what Pam saw? Pam saw this,
Oh,
4 numbers. See Benita, look at the look on Benita's face. And that is called the aha moment. Because in real life, wouldn't it be amazing, right? Pam and Benita and Lisa and I are in an argument about who's right and who's wrong and how on earth what do you mean 4 numbers? There was eight numbers, Pam. Did you miss the training? We're arguing, we're debating who's right and who's wrong. Dialogue says, hang on a second, let me see it through your lens. Oh my gosh, I got it. From where Pam is sitting, because of her background, her experience, she's a supervisor, whatever it is, she is seeing it differently than I am.
So John, this is just a warm up, right? And there are, in addition to the warm up, three other exercises within this.
Yes, that's right. The first one, this is the one that gets the ball rolling. And let
Okay.
me screen share a set of questions and conversation that in the workbook that comes out of this. So in the full-blown conversation, this is really the starter is what forces have shaped our perception? And unpacking this again in the sample, we have a set of sample agendas and instructions for this whole set. You can do a full day activity and a really deep dive into what has shaped our perceptions, right? History and heritage, our identity, our experiences, the current situation, the context. If I put you under pressure and say, okay, like time is money. You got a couple seconds, quick, do the math, get your answer. That's it. Next. Well, then you don't have time to do the closer look,
So
that Pam,
even just this
right?
at the outset, you can start digging into like the iceberg of, what's under the surface. But you
Yeah.
have a couple, let's do, if folks are game and we can get another few volunteers, maybe we can do one more activity and then we'll talk about some of the different applications. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let me try this one more time. Let me ask Dr. Diana if you wouldn't mind volunteering. So Diana and Rachel, I'm just picking who I see on the screen. And let's see, how about Amy? So I've got Diana and Rachel and Amy. Are you okay to participate?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so if the three of you would close your eyes. And what I'd like you to do is, Dr. Diana, you're going to go first. And this exercise is about emotional intelligence. So Diana, you can open your eyes.
Okay.
I want you to use your emotional intelligence to interpret the setting. What might this individual be thinking? Now, I don't want you to say anything. Just grab a piece of scrap paper. and jot down some, words, some emotions that come to mind. What do you think they're thinking about? Like what's the situation? And use that to kind of interpret, right, from an EQ perspective, what they might be thinking about, experiencing, right, etc. You got some ideas?
I do.
Okay, great. So close your eyes. Let's see. Rachel, go ahead and open your eyes. Rachel, same thing. I want you to look at the image. Consider what this individual might be thinking,
And
how
John, as
feeling.
Rachel is jotting her notes, in a classroom, you would have several people with each of the different colored lenses on looking at the workbooks. So
Yeah,
it's not
great.
like one, two, three people at odds. You've got a whole classroom of people with all their different kind of assumptions and backgrounds and baggage and perceptions and how they're taking in, seeing
Yeah.
things differently.
Yes, that's a great point. In the kit, every participant gets at least one pair of glasses, if not all three colors. And so then you get to do the exchange, and everyone has a different color on, right? Either red or yellow or blue. All right, Lisa, you good? I mean, sorry, Rachel, you good? Okay, close your eyes. And Amy, hang on one second. All right, Amy, open your eyes. Jot down a few words. What's the context? What kind of day is it? What they might be thinking, feeling? Give me a thumbs up when you're ready. Yeah, so per your point, Sue, every participant has a set of glasses on. And as you go through these activities, so everyone is taking part in this real time. You could have observers without glasses, but it's very visceral when you have them on.
Mm.
Amy, you good to go? Okay, all right. Let's flip the chart. All right, so let's start with Diana. What do you got? The context.
I thought it was sad and lonely and isolated, and that's it.
Yeah, right. So why? What were the clues that
The
lead you to
the
that?
the sky looked, the clouds looked sad. The figure had this sadness about him holding the umbrella.
Yeah. Any sense of like where were they? Like what was the situation?
I couldn't sort out where they are. That wasn't clear to me. I wasn't sure what was that a guardrail or I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah. Okay. Some people say a cemetery with that.
Oh, I didn't see that. I didn't
Okay.
see it
Okay.
that way.
So maybe a guardrail, something that they were standing in front of.
Right.
Sad and gloomy. Amy, would you pretty much agree with that assessment that Diana's got?
To me, it looked just more neutral. No extreme emotions, just kind of walking down the street holding an umbrella. To me, it looked maybe like power lines were along one side, but nothing sad or gloomy or especially happy, just walking down the street.
Okay. But definitely not sad and gloomy. So that's interesting. And Rachel, how about you?
To me, actually, there was it was definitely a cloudy day and the umbrella was in their hand, but there were what looked to be bright street lights and actually a sun in the sky. So, it was giving me that hope part of it too, that there was either the clouds were leaving or there was some brightness to the day coming. Um, and the person almost looked like they were, I know it sounds strange, but it almost looked like the person was smiling.
Okay. All right. So Diana, like sad and gloomy, I mean, is that how you feel when the sun is out? So I don't understand, Diana. How did you get sad and gloomy when the sun is out? Sorry, you're on mute, Diana. You can just come off mute.
Pardon me. I apologize.
No
I
problem.
didn't see any sun. I just saw these ominous clouds. And then I wondered, I'm in Boston right now, so it's kind of
Oh,
cloudy out.
Right. So,
But
okay. So Diana, by the way, I'm just going to play with this for a little while. So don't take this personally. That explains things. First of all, Diana's probably kind of a pessimist. She's from Boston, where it's gray and gloomy all the time. So she kind of interprets everything. Like even when the sun is out, she interprets it as doom and gloom, right, Rachel? Right, Amy?
Well,
Like,
yeah, because
the
I'm in sunny
object that
South Carolina.
yeah, right. I mean, there you go. South Carolina, Boston, like clearly Boston, kind of negative, we
Diana, I'm with you.
so get the point. I'm not taking the time to unpack. Okay, wait a minute. So hang on a second, Diana. What were you looking? What did you see that was different? And I'm going straight into, oh, I know why Diana was this way. I don't take the time to listen and
So, John,
understand.
as facilitator, do you model that or do you let the participants play that out?
All of the
How
above,
do you
and
do
I'd
it?
love to hear. So Leangela has done this with groups. I'd love to hear your take on that. It starts to unfold real time, and you can just ask a few provocative questions and to stimulate, the discussion
Mhm.
before you
Mhm.
do the reveal. and you have to be very rigid. Say, don't change glasses, don't take them off. What you see
Yeah.
is what you get, right? When you have the lenses on, that's what you see. Leangela, any comment on like
Yeah,
how it unfolds?
yeah. Well, some of the ways in which I facilitated, I asked, like, as you think about it, what assumptions did you make? Or did you make any assumptions? And that moves them into a conversation around, well, I really didn't see this, but this was my interpretation. And to John's point, using the ladder of inference, I go back and point to, okay, so this was the actual data, right? And so what beliefs did you have that informed how it is that you may have added information that wasn't really there? And so that's part of how it is that folks begin to take a seat back and say, well, I didn't think about it that way. And that really helps folks to move through questioning their assumptions. Secondarily, particularly I'm in DC in our political environment, I think that, not being able to use the word diversity around diverse views, diverse experiences, et cetera, then it is also a way to lend language to how our views, our interpretations of our lived experiences are different as well. And so I found it to be very useful, particularly in this day and age in organizations, because we tend to do quite a bit of work in the public sector.
Should we do the reveal?
Yeah, let's do the reveal. So here's the scene. So Diana, here's what your colleagues were seeing. You can kind of see, right? Kind of see the sun. Those of you without glasses can see them even more. Of course, it shows up differently in the room, right? So they're looking at the sunshine and the umbrellas protecting them from the sun, etc. Now, what everybody else is wondering is, what Rachel and Amy are wondering is like sadness, loneliness. How on earth could that be sad and lonely? Well, you'd be surprised, right? All of a sudden the sun is gone, the clouds are gray, right? Everything's kind of just and it's like, what is that? What did you say? Power line? Or somebody said a graveyard? Like, like a totally different context just based on what I see, what I pick up. I've lived like I said, I lived for 8 years in Uganda. There were things I just was missing for most of the time I was there until someone pointed them out because I just couldn't see it through my cultural lens. I always start every conversation when it comes to inclusion and engagement with a broad range of individuals. I say, I'm a tall, able-bodied, white male. I mean, you name it. There are things I just don't see. Dr. Ingram is one of my mentors when it comes to, she's like, JR, there is things happening. You have no idea what's going on. Like, I don't see that. She's like, it's happening. And helping me perceive, understand that there is a lot going on in the world that I'm missing. So when it comes to the 4 sections in the workbook have to do with what shapes our lens, our perceptions, and then there's an exercise on how we perceive ourselves and others. Let me screen share that for just a moment. So that's the conversation about what shapes our lenses. This one has to do with how we perceive ourselves and others. If you can see on the screen, there are different characteristics in different colors. And so when you look at it through the different lenses, one of us will have an opinion about Cameron as outgoing and friendly, wonderful candidate for the team. Somebody else sees Cameron as overbearing and long-winded and can't stand them and doesn't want him on the team. And welcome to how we perceive ourselves and others, right, through our lens. So that's the second activity. The third activity is this emotional intelligence, right, and interpreting and engaging with others and how we view through our cultural context, projection bias, stereotyping, etc. This opens up all kinds of conversations, and you can go in depth as much as you want into these. And then the last one is about making decisions. And this is one of my favorites because this one, you challenge the table group, or we have this agendas and sample agendas for virtual teams as well. And you can do this in a virtual context, is right through your lens, add only the black numbers. Well, every color is seeing different numbers, right, differently. And I like to say chaos ensues. So I have my opinion, Diana has hers, Sue has hers. And how do we make decisions when we're all seeing the world differently? We still have to make decisions. We got to move forward. So the point of it is getting into the beyond the activity into let's focus on dialogue, not debate, right? Let's focus on getting an equitable, accurate answer and understanding, not just the quick answer, right? Time is money. Diana is the senior most person on the team, so we're going with sad and lonely. You know, I don't know what's wrong with those other people, Diana, but that's the answer, right? Constructive language, not destructive. You know, what's wrong with you is not a good opener for dialogue. Don't you
And so,
understand?
John, if you don't mind, just to kind of break in, I want to be cognizant of time.
Absolutely.
You know, we sort of structured this for a half an hour, but leave time, additional time available for more questions. But I just want to also raise awareness of a couple things that I put in the chat, as well as other resources that are available to folks when they get this. So we've spoken both you and I'm sorry, is it Leangela? I'm not sure I'm saying
Yep,
your name
Angela.
correctly. Mentioned the ladder of inference, which was a concept developed, correct me if I'm wrong, by Chris Ardress. It's part of the Harvard Negotiation Project group,
Yeah.
which I only know because that's the area that I did training in myself
Yes,
before
yes.
Trainer's Warehouse. So that's the model that kind of helps you look at what it is that's helping you form decisions and opinions. What are the facts that you're pulling from? So I put a link in to a blog post that I actually put together on that. I'm sure there's a lot of other references for it. I also added in, John had provided with me earlier, a whole bunch of ways that you can use this tool for leadership, whether you're building teams, resolving conflict, developing emotional intelligence. As Leangela said, diversity, even though that's a bad word, we do have to understand each other better and know how to talk to each other, see each other's perspectives. Customer service, how do other folks see things versus how might you see them in an organization, developing partnerships, and so on. So lots of different options here. And John has put together, and maybe you can pull this up, a set of facilitation notes for whether you are putting together a half an hour, just want to raise awareness session, or a full day event and a few options in between. So you can know, like he's done this so many times. He knows what points to pull out at what moment. And this walks you through some of those different options. So this is a 29-page document. It's very inclusive. And I think someone else asked how many you get in the set. So in this set, we've bundled 18 pairs of glasses and 6 of each color and 3 workbooks. So we sort of figured that if you had 6 people, they could each have their own pair of glasses, and, 2 of the 6 could each share a workbook. That said, you can always add in different workbooks and we can get some pricing and so forth on that. But just wanted to answer that question as well.
Yeah. A key is that each participant has at least one pair and you can rotate them around. Ideally, each participant has all 3 colors because then they can try it themselves and take them home and put them on their desk. The follow-on to this is put these on your desk. And the next time a difficult conversation arises or that topic, or you and Lael have a different opinion, pick up the glasses and remind yourselves, hang on a second, we're just seeing this differently. Let's unpack this for a minute.
All right, so we're at 12:31. Boom. Questions though. Let's just kind of open it up. I know some people might have to leave right now. For those who can stay on, let's just have a moment to chat with John, with Leangela, with Jory, folks who have had tons of experience with how they use this, what you might face, what might be some of the challenges.
And let me introduce and welcome Diane Ullman. Diane is a client who has run a leadership program for the years that over many years that I've supported, and she's seen this in action with the group. 2 sentences, Diane, on your experience as from a client perspective.
Thanks, JR. I'm glad to be here. Sorry, I jumped on a little late, but it's very powerful to see everyone working in groups and that aha moment you talked about, the light bulb that goes on. And so I watched like groups year after year after year, and we all work together on integrated product teams. So it's really important to understand that everybody has a different perception. So it was really great. And we did. I have all my glasses. We had them on our desks. So I'm glad you asked me to join because I really am a big fan of this.
Thanks for being here.
Wonderful.
Yeah, questions, comments, and I'm happy to, and I'll let you facilitate, Sue.
I'm putting in the link again on the Trainers Warehouse site is the Power of Perception product. And John or JR, I'm hearing all of your besties call you JR. We knew this question was going to come about a virtual option. And we spoke about this just the other day. And I would just say it's in development, like, helping you get together the notes to help you run a session in the way that John just did for us today. Yeah. So we're looking at that and haven't quite figured out how to price it, right?
Yeah, sure. But let me say, if you're interested, if you have a remote team or virtual team or a virtual cohort or whatever the case may be, the trick is you got to get the materials to each participant in advance of the meeting. So that's fine. And Sue can handle the shipping and all that kind of stuff. So then each participant gets a kit with glasses and they can get the physical workbook. The activities are done on the screen. And so the image is shown on the screen while each participant wears a different color glasses. So it's a different facilitation, but the process, the overall process is the same and the point is exactly the same. That when I'm wearing the red, what I see on my screen is radically different than what you see when you're wearing blue lenses, etc. And then you use breakout functions for the discussions, etc. So if you're interested, let us know. We'll get you the sample agendas and instructions for virtual teams, virtual cohorts. We can get that to you quickly.
And a couple of other things I should mention. John is a consultant. If you needed him to do this for you, I'm sure he'd be delighted. Second, we've just launched this product just probably about a month ago, and we came out, this initial set is the set of 18 glasses and 3 workbooks so that you could do this with a group. We weren't quite sure what the right bundle was going to be. Because John often sends like 3 sets of glasses, 1 workbook in a box to each participant. If you want things bundled in a different way, he and I can kind of figure out, maybe we have a second product offering that looks like that, or additional extra workbooks. So, let us know what your needs are, and, we'll continue to evolve and figure out how we can get you what you need. Interesting question from Shirley. Let's take a moment. She's asked, as we discuss DEI, how can we modify the program to accommodate visually impaired teammates?
Yes.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, I can a little bit. And also colorblind participants is another category of individuals who have a different experience with this. So it's important to know in advance. So ask participants, is there anyone who would appreciate any accommodation? Explain the nature of the activity and ask if there's any accommodation to be made. In my experience, the vast majority will still want to participate and will disclose, and it's already a context that their colleagues are aware of. And in fact, plays directly into them having an opportunity to explain that how they see the world differently and how they don't have access to and how frustrating it is when everyone else is, going into the conversation and they say, I don't get that and I'm missing out and you don't understand that you're moving down the road without me. And so it is literally an opportunity to have a conversation about physical ability and disability and how that impacts the experience. Um,
So I don't know.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know if
I could talk all
anybody
day about
has.
this, as you can tell.
I don't know if anyone has experience with this or not, but in being sensitive to people who may have vision impairment, do you need to talk about like how they experience the world versus see the world, or is it not sensitive in that way?
I won't speak to that. I don't know if Leangela has anything to mention on that. I personally, and again, I mentioned this up front, and I would say this to the group, I'm able-bodied, tall, white male. There are things that I'm going to miss. If I'm missing something, please either right up front or pull me aside and let me know if I'm missing something. And I have had participants um, give me insight, let me say, into something that I'm missing in some aspect of the conversation. It could be language, it could be some aspect of inclusion for them to really be a full part of the discussion. So there are absolutely sensitivities. And by the way, be prepared for sensitive conversations. This immediately elicits people's real life experience, lived experience of being marginalized, being overwhelmed by the power cohort, whoever that may be. You can play with the activities, have one entire table group or virtual breakout group wear red lenses, and they all get the same answer. And real quickly, by the way, right? Total agreement
Yeah.
because we all see the world the same way. Then you put one person with yellow and everybody else has red. Well, that one person is the only one seeing things differently. And so you can really get down into the layers on this very readily. I don't know if Leah mentioned
So
anything.
I wanted to ask my question.
Yes, sure.
I just purchased a kit. I love the idea. I love the concept. I think it's a wonderful activity. And I am going to currently be doing a presentation on poverty and wanted to talk about the perceptions, different measures that are used and how they can actually be indicate different numbers. So I'm wondering, how do I get additional glasses? And I was looking in the chat, but I didn't see a response to the question. You answered the question about colorblind individuals. Our commissioner actually is colorblind. And so I was just curious how this activity would impact those who are colorblind or had visual.
Sure. The sensitivity point there, as with any of these elements or contexts, is are they comfortable with public awareness of that, I'll say condition, it could be disability depending on the terminology. If it's public awareness and this individual is perfectly happy, everybody already knows I'm colorblind and they don't, well, then rock and roll, they're going to see it their own way and they'll have their own experience of every activity. And it's an opportunity for them to say, even without glasses, I'm seeing something that the rest of you can't even imagine. And oh, by the way, nobody's ever stopped and asked me, right? And so if they're comfortable with that public disclosure and awareness, then you can really just play right into it. If they're not and they don't want to disclose, then you have to engage and ask them, are they okay with the activity going forward? And they essentially observe. They can chime in as they'd like to, but I would then not put them in a position of saying, okay, let me call on you and ask for your input and perspective, because then they can only see what they can see, if that makes sense. So they'd have to make a decision. And then depending on the numbers and the sensitivity, you have to decide if it's the right activity. If it's overly sensitive, then you don't go there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl. That's a great question. And there's a conversation, an application I hadn't even considered, right? Again, because I'm a middle class, living in a middle class suburb, how would this impact our perspectives on poverty, on economic status, and how that plays out in the world? Yeah, right. If I have the privilege of being middle class, I don't think about that. So there you go. You're seeing something through a different lens. Anyway, I could go on about this all day, as you can see.
All right, and some thank you to both of you, and some great more contributions in the chat. Leangela shared an experience with someone who's deaf who corrected her, and I think that creating an environment where it's okay to correct and correct your language is, if I'm hearing you right, is key, and to make people feel that openness and acceptance to be able to learn from them. We've had lots of folks who have both asked for extra pairs of glasses if they want to hold on to the workbooks, but give glasses away. So we'll have to kind of figure out what's the right number. I saw 25, 10. We'll figure out an option there, as well as extra workbooks. So maybe we add to our product offerings and offer some of these separately.
And let me mention, Sue, that as we're still figuring out, so I wrote up the sample agendas and the instructions. Feel free to reach out to me if you have a question or something's not playing out. There are sensitivities, the numbers of participants, how you might formulate. I tried to be as thorough as I could without, going into every possible context. So if you have some unusual situation, Leangela, you did this with a group of how many people?
I don't know, was it like 300 or so?
Oh,
So
I was the keynote speaker at their annual conference. But what it did was it launched them into conversations around the marketing department and how we see these things. And so it really set them up for their upcoming annual meeting, in which so I invited them to consider, so as you all meet, how do you advocate for your perspectives or your positions and don't take into account your colleagues? And so they got a lot out of it, all 300 plus folks, but it was an abbreviated version, right? So it wasn't a 4-hour training. We used it again as a follow-up to a training that JR had done, and they liked it, and so it was an opportunity for them to continue to utilize their kits that they had already purchased for deeper conversations.
sounds wonderful.
I love to do this at the outset of a session, almost regardless of the topic, and then put a pause on it, and then everybody has the glasses on the table, and it keeps coming up throughout the day as you discuss. Let's hear from the legal department. Let's hear from the marketing department. And believe it or not, the legal team has a different perspective than the marketing department. Call me crazy. Who knew? And so here we go again. Let's pull out the glasses. So back to the opening question, Sue, that you said, what are some of as we were signing on, what are some of those sensitive topics in your organization, hot topics? Well, guess what? Remote work. As a supervisor, I need everybody in the office and a desk because that's the only, and I got to know what you're doing, and that's my lens. As an employee, I want to work remotely, and I'm doing more and getting more done when I work remotely. That's my lens. Off we go to the races.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Sue, this is Cedric. I'm always an early adapter to things. And so I purchased this and received it about a week or so ago. And I used it actually in church on Sundays. I work a lot with youth. So in our teen chat, we use it with youth. And I showed them how, if you look in scripture, how the 12 spies saw the saw the land one way, and the two spies came back and saw it a totally different way, right? Fear versus faith, right?
That's awesome.
The same thing with the tax collector, Zacchaeus, right? Um, Everybody else saw the tax collector as a bad person, or Jesus saw him as a good person, and tried to help people see that. So we use it in that context on Sunday in our teen chat, and I'm actually sitting outside of middle school. I'm about to go in. I'm gonna use it with these middle school students because they argue, fuss, and fight all the time. So we have a group that we're going to be using this with today. Uh,
Love it.
Today.
Love it.
But so I like it. I just like a bigger kit, probably.
Okay.
And
We can
let me
make that
mention,
happen.
my business manager is going to kill me for this. I do a lot of pro bono work with youth organizations in developing communities. So please reach out and let me know. I'd love to be able to contribute in different ways. We have online courses on our website and stuff that I can contribute to nonprofits or student groups or whatever. So if you're doing some work with folks in that arena who really merit the investment, but the finances just aren't there, let me know.
Yeah, definitely will. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jared, Pam asks about doing it as you did with flip charts. Do you ever do it without workbooks?
So I always have a flip chart handy because strange dynamics, and you got to always be prepared to flex. As I said in the instructions, practice this with real people before you go into the actual, if it's a client group or whatever, and be ready to flex. It's the weirdest things can come up. Lighting, different types of lighting has plays with the visuals, and so I always keep a flip chart handy because worst case scenario, I find that that's the one that never fails. When you write with a yellow highlighter, you just cannot see it through the red lens. So okay, good. At least we have, no matter what else happens. It's really odd how, very certain settings. I walked into a ballroom with 75 participants and it was dark, like very dark. I said, "Can we raise the lights for them?" No, no, this is as bright as they go. What? I could barely read the page myself without my, no, I'm getting old, but you get the point. And so you just got to be ready to flex. You can always have or ask for the PowerPoint slides. The problem with the slides is different projection systems show up differently through the lenses. So thus the workbook is the most reliable. And then again, a flip chart is kind of my backup plan, depending on how many people and those
And is
things.
that a highlighter yellow that you use as opposed to like a yellow marker, like a
Any
yellow
yellow,
water?
as long as it's like yellow, not orange, orange
Okay.
shows up through there. But again, if there's any context, if someone's delivering in a certain situation or so we have a question, just let me know.
Okay. I'm kind of wondering, we
Cheryl
still
has
have
sorry, Sue. Cheryl has a question again.
I was just going to say we have about 30 people on and I'm sort of sorting through, can we get more workbooks? Can we get more glasses? Can we get more um I'm just trying to figure out, maybe we just talk through this unless I'm wondering whether I should poll people to see how many should be in a set, or maybe the question is, do you feel not as good about having people share workbooks? Because that was one of the things. You often have one workbook per person, John, but I was concerned about the cost when we first discussed it.
Well, to me, yeah, as you can imagine, the ideal is everyone has their own and they can write their answers and their own responses real time and capture their reflections. Yeah, I mean, it comes down to cost in terms of how much you have to allocate per person in your budget. And
All right.
two things, Sue, I'm going to have to hop off here shortly. Please, anybody can follow up with me. I'll put you have my
I
email.
just put jr@johnriordan.com.
And then another thing we might ask folks to do is to prioritize or whatever your request in terms of the orders. So if you really need this urgently versus I'd like the kits, but I'm not in a crisis and I could, wait for a little bit because it may turn out that we have to order more supplies and copies and things like that.
Okay. Find to reuse glasses. I'm replying to Pam. Would it
I
be
believe
possible?
Cheryl had a question.
Yes.
You raised your hand, Cheryl?
Yeah, I was
Um,
going to ask that. I was going to pose it a little bit differently. She asked about getting access to the PowerPoint version of the exercises, but would it be possible to put those as part of the facilitator instructions? If it's an online file and put it in a Word, or I want to be respectful of the intellectual property though as well, but I guess those two ideas that could answer that question for you, Cheryl.
Yep. And Sue, follow up with me and we can get that nailed down just, very quickly.
Okay.